There are many ways to understand a relationship, but few are as evident as the one Taehyung and Jungkook display. In every glance, every smile, and every joke between them, there are clear signs of a connection that needs no words. Taehyung has a special way of observing Jungkook, and that look completely changes the atmosphere. It's not just attention, it's habit. Jungkook, for his part, reacts immediately. His face lights up, his expression relaxes, and he seems to feel calmer. This transformation is visible whenever Taehyung is around. It's not just a single moment, it's a constant. Every time they're together, the same thing happens. Taehyung's smile when he jokes with Jungkook isn't part of an act, it's a reflection of what he feels. And that's something that's noticeable even when the cameras are on. They don't need to think about how to act because their way of being together is already defined. It's an emotional routine they've created over time. Jungkook's behavior also confirms this. Just being by Taehyung's side is enough to change his mood. He doesn't need to speak or make grand gestures, just being close is enough. And when they're apart, you notice a difference. They both become quieter, more peaceful, as if something is missing. It's a clear sign that they directly influence each other. No other member causes such an immediate and constant change in Jungkook. Only Taehyung. Taehyung and Jungkook aren't exactly alike. Their personalities aren't exactly the same, and that's precisely what makes their union so unique. One may seem calmer, the other more impulsive. One conveys calm with their presence, the other shines with energy. But instead of clashing, they complement each other. It's not about subtracting or extinguishing the other, but rather adding. Together, they create something new. Like fire that warms and water that soothes. When they're close, it's like watching a perfect balance in motion. Even though some Jungkookers don't agree with what exists between them, that doesn't change what they show. They don't shout it out, but they don't hide it either. The small gestures speak volumes. There's something special about the way they look at each other. When Jungkook looks at Taehyung, there's a firmness, as if he knows exactly who is in front of him and what he represents in his life. Taehyung isn't far behind. His gaze on Jungkook is steady, deep, as if he's seeking to see beyond what everyone else can see. The most interesting thing is how they ignore external things when they're around each other. They don't care if there are cameras or people watching. Their behavior doesn't change. They keep touching each other, looking at each other, and getting closer. They seem to create a bubble where only the two of them exist. This way of being together isn't something that's built overnight. It's the result of years of connection, of lived moments, of shared experiences. Taehyung and Jungkook don't try to convince anyone of what exists between them. What others interpret as coincidences, for Taehyung fans, is clear evidence of a genuine bond. The way they behave around each other shows that they're not acting out of habit. They've created their own way of being, one that doesn't need explanations, it's simply observed and understood. Before debuting, Jungkook and Taehyung went through many hardships. Jungkook once said they fought a lot, and that Taehyung used to scold him frequently. However, those kinds of fights didn't stem from anger, but from a relationship where one cares for the other. When Taehyung asked Jungkook if he wanted him to scold him again and they both burst out laughing, it was clear that all of that is now a thing of the past. That shared laughter was clearer than any explanation. They no longer argue, now they understand each other with just a glance. During the recording of cover 17, Taehyung revealed something that made everything even clearer. They no longer argue, now it's the other way around. They are so close that even the HYBE team has to remind them they are on camera. This means their connection isn't something they want to show, but something they experience. The professional environment they are in doesn't limit their feelings. They are natural, they don't pretend or force anything. What we see is what we get. That closeness isn't learned. It's part of who they are. Touching without fear, laughing together without thinking, being by each other's side all the time. There's no intention to show off. There's only habit. Not an empty habit, but one rooted in caring for each other. People who act can fake a connection. But when two people like them understand each other so well, they don't have to make a scene. They don't need to practice gestures, because their way of being together already speaks for themselves. The relationship between Taehyung and Jungkook isn't sustained by single moments. What truly builds their bond is a series of small actions that, together, form a constant routine. They don't need to talk about what they feel. It's all in how they act whenever they're around each other. This sum of gestures makes their connection unlike any other. There are no interruptions, no pauses, no sudden changes. There's a continuous line of affection that is held firm for years. Taehyung always finds a way to make Jungkook laugh. Sometimes with simple jokes, other times with just a glance. It's as if he knows exactly what Jungkook needs at any given moment. This ability to read each other isn't built overnight. It's the result of a relationship that has remained solid over time. And most importantly, neither of them changes their behavior depending on who's watching. They don't adapt their gestures for the cameras. They behave the same whether they're alone or when there are people around. That naturalness is hard to find. There are moments when you can notice how the atmosphere changes when they're together. It's not just a smile or a touch. It's an entire energy that surrounds them. Taehyung and Jungkook have noticed that, when they're around each other, their attention is completely focused on each other. They don't wander off, they don't look for other people. There's a clear focus. And when they're apart, that intensity diminishes. It's visible. It's not a theory, it's something seen on multiple occasions. The pattern repeats itself in different contexts, recordings, concerts, interviews, live broadcasts. There's always one constant: they reach out, touch, look at each other, and that's enough to make everything around them seem to stop. You don't have to wait for grand gestures to confirm what exists between them. The small, the repeated, the everyday are what reveal the most. When a person becomes part of your emotional routine, there's no need to talk about it. You just need to be there. That's what Taehyung and Jungkook do. They are there. And by being there, they confirm a relationship that goes beyond what's visible. When Taehyung and Jungkook are around each other, they don't behave like two ordinary people just sharing a stage. Every movement, every way they look at each other, every shoulder brush or glance, conveys something much deeper than a simple casual interaction. It's not habit or routine, but a particular way they have of being together, as if their bodies speak louder than words. Many observe how Taehyung and Jungkook behave in public and believe it could all be part of a planned moment or part of the work. But when you look closely, you notice a key difference: they don't fake it. Their gestures aren't exaggerated or forced. They're not designed to attract attention. On the contrary, they seem to forget there are eyes on them. Everything becomes more intimate, more natural. As if the rest of the world disappears when they're next to each other. They touch each other without thinking, like someone who has touched the other 1,000 times and no longer hesitates. They don't do it with nervousness or distance. Their bodies move closer as if it were their most comfortable place. There's security, there's familiarity. And that comfort is only achieved when there's a connection that's been cultivated over time. A connection that grows stronger over the years and no longer requires external approval. It's something between them that others only see in fragments. Their gazes are a whole other language. They're not quick glances, but deep ones. They know how to search each other with their eyes, how to read each other without speaking. At times, a simple exchange of glances is enough to make one approach or change their behavior. As if there were a silent agreement between them. No one else has access to that. It's a communication that goes beyond the obvious, built on trust and shared time. There's something that happens between Taehyung and Jungkook that can't be repeated or imitated. It's not an act, it's not part of the job, nor is it made for the fans. They're simply together. And when they're together, they forget about everything else, even the cameras. The HYBE staff has noticed, they have to be caught by attention because they disconnect from their surroundings. Not just anyone can do that. When someone forgets they're being filmed, it's because their attention is fully focused on the person next to them. In this case, that someone is Jungkook for Taehyung, and Taehyung for Jungkook. This kind of connection isn't born from being in the same group for many years. It's born when there's something deeper. They don't need to plan what they're doing, or practice how they're going to look, touch, or speak. It's as if their way of communicating was already learned long ago. When they look at each other, they don't look for a reaction. When they get close, they don't think about how it will look. Because that's their way of being. Every gesture, every silence, every shared laugh is part of their daily relationship. The most important thing about this is consistency. It doesn't happen once or twice. It's always. And when something happens so often, it's no longer an accident or a coincidence. It's a clear example of how they feel. In the music world, where many relationships are kept private or solely for work, seeing something as constant and genuine as Taekook's is striking. Because it's not about impressing anyone. It's about a connection that's already part of their lives. And when you remember moments like the one during the recording of Cover 17, where they themselves say they no longer argue, but are now scolded for being too close together, it confirms everything many Taekookers already knew. Their bond cannot be hidden. They don't deny it, but they don't explain it either. They simply live it. As if it were the most normal thing for them.